My brother slapped my daughter in front of everyone. Like mother, like daughter, both are useless. He laughed so loud it bounced off the walls. My father smirked and said, "Well, she needed to learn some shame." I swear I felt something inside me shatter. My little girl Emma was only 12. She stood there trembling, hand on her cheek, eyes wide and glassy. Not a single person in that crowded Boston Country Club banquet hall stood up for her. Or for me. My mother quietly sipped her wine. My sister-in-law smirked and pulled her phone out, probably texting her gossip group. And my husband, Daniel, just shifted uncomfortably, cleared his throat and looked away. He had always been too cowardly to confront my family. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, but all I could do was pull Emma close and whisper, "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here." Even as I said it, I knew it was a lie. It wasn't okay. It hadn't been okay for years. Let me back up a little. I grew up in this perfectly polished New England family. Dad owned a string of upscale restaurants across Boston. My brother James was the golden child, groomed to take over the family business. I was the afterthought, the family embarrassment, the girl who dropped out of business school after a nervous breakdown, who married a sweet but soft-spined man and decided to raise her kid instead of climbing any corporate ladder. For years they reminded me of my failures. Little jokes at family dinners, snide comments at Christmas, being left out of major business decisions or even small celebrations. But I kept swallowing it, telling myself family is family. And then Emma was born and I thought surely they'd soften. But instead they found new ways to wound me, by ignoring her, by mocking her shy nature, by constantly comparing her to James' perfect little boy. So when James slapped Emma that evening, something inside me finally snapped. I didn't know what to do right then. It was like my brain disconnected. I simply grabbed Emma's hand and walked out of that hall, ignoring the whispers and chuckles behind me. In the car, Emma burst into tears. "Mommy, what did I do wrong? Why does Uncle James hate me? God." I nearly pulled over. My hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I wiped her tears and kissed her forehead. "You didn't do anything wrong. They're just cruel people. But you listen to me, Mommy's going to fix this. Okay? I promise." She sniffled and gave me this tiny nod. I think that was the moment my fear died and something sharper took its place. For the next few days I replayed that night over and over. The sound of James' hand hitting my child. My father's smug voice. Then, I remembered something. The mic. They'd been using cordless lapel mics for speeches that night. James had one still clipped on his jacket. And my dad had stood close. They didn't know the AV team was recording everything, even between speeches. I called the event manager at the club, pretended to be following up on a family highlight reel. And sure enough, they sent me a copy of all the audio from that night. When I listened to it, my hands went cold. Crystal clear. James' vile words. My father's disgusting chuckle. All captured, along with Emma's tiny sob at the end. That was when my plan began to take shape. I wasn't going to scream, or beg them to be decent. No, I was going to hit them exactly where it would hurt most, their reputations, their precious business, their high society standing. And I was going to make sure they'd never see it coming. I called an old college friend, Sarah, who now ran PR crisis management in New York. I sent her the clip and told her everything. "Emily," she said after a long pause, "this is nuclear. Are you ready for what comes next? This could ruin them. Completely." I exhaled. I want them ruined. I want them to feel even a fraction of what my daughter felt. "Can you help me?" Her voice was calm. "Then let's burn it all down." By the time the first local lifestyle blog ran with the story, it was only 2 days later. Boston restaurateur caught mocking and striking niece, family values questioned amid new audio leak. 2 days after that, it hit national outlets. Then video compilations started popping up on TikTok, pairing James' cruel laugh with hashtags like #boycott Turner Dining. Sponsors pulled out of upcoming events. James had to issue a shaky apology video, which people shredded for being insincere. My father went silent, refusing interviews. Their empire, built on spotless family branding, was rotting from the inside. But this was only the beginning, because I had kept one final devastating ace up my sleeve, and I was going to play it when it would destroy them the most. And as for Emma, she finally started smiling again. I'd catch her humming doodling flowers. She didn't know the full details, but she knew Mommy was fighting for her. And that was enough to keep my heart steady for what came next. I thought exposing that audio would be enough. I truly did. But you know how rot works. Once you start peeling it back, more decay always surfaces. Within a week, anonymous tips started flooding local reporters. I hadn't even encouraged it. Turns out my family's enemies were many old staffers, ex-investors, even distant relatives with scores to settle. One story after another came to light. James had been siphoning money from the restaurant payroll for years, funneling it into his personal luxury lifestyle, cars, gambling, hush vacations with women not his wife. My father had been bribing health inspectors to ignore sanitation violations in 3 of their biggest Boston locations. The media had a feeding frenzy. Meanwhile at home, Daniel watched it all unfold with a kind of horrified awe. I'd always thought of him as mild. But the night a major network ran the headline, "Boston's Turner family exposed. Child abuse, fraud and cover-use," he turned to me, eyes wide. "You planned all of this?" I didn't lie. Yes. For Emma. And for me. Instead of shrinking, he exhaled a laugh that was half relief, half wonder. "I've never been prouder of you. My mother tried to call. I let it ring. So did my sister-in-law. Dozens of missed calls, voicemails ranging from tearful begging to threats. I ignored them all. Then James showed up at my door. He didn't look like the brother I grew up with, suit wrinkled, eyes bloodshot, voice cracking. "Emily, please. Call off these vultures. You've made your point." I stepped outside, shut the door behind me. The July heat pressed down on us. I folded my arms. "You slapped my daughter. You laughed while she cried. And you expect me to save you now." It was one stupid moment. No, James. It was decades of moments. You've always been cruel. You just never expected consequences. His voice turned venomous. "If Dad loses the business, we all suffer. You too. Remember, your dividends pay for that sweet little art class Emma goes to." I smiled. "Not anymore. I moved our investments last month. Emma's future is safe. Yours though? I guess you'll have to find someone else to leech off." His face crumbled. "You're gonna ruin us. Your own family. You ruined yourselves." I just held up the mirror. That night, after putting Emma to bed, I sat on the porch with a glass of wine, staring out over the quiet Boston street. A warm breeze lifted my hair. I felt light for the first time in years. No more secrets. No more pretending. Then my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. Something told me to answer. A scratchy old voice crackled through. "Emily Turner? This is Margaret Calloway. I used to work with your mother 40 years ago." I frowned. "I'm sorry, I don't. I saw the news. Your family's finally getting what they deserve. And I thought you should know, your mother isn't who she pretends to be. She did something back then. Something awful. I've kept the proof." My heart stopped. "What kind of proof?" "A confession letter. From your mother to my sister. About an incident with your father. Changes everything. I can mail it to you." I didn't sleep that night. What more could there be? My mother, the cold matriarch who'd always looked down on me, who sipped wine while her son slapped my child. What skeletons was she hiding? The envelope arrived 2 days later. It was old, the paper yellowed, the ink smudged in places. But the words were legible. It was a letter from my mother, written decades ago, pouring out guilt. About how James wasn't truly my father's son. How she cheated, desperate to give the family an heir, because Dad only cared about bloodlines. And how Dad agreed to pretend for the sake of appearances, raising James as his own. My stomach flipped. All those years James was treated like royalty, and he was never even the rightful heir. The irony was so sharp I actually laughed. I knew exactly what to do. I packaged copies of the letter and sent them anonymously to every major shareholder, board member, and senior manager tied to my father's restaurant empire. A follow-up story broke within days. Turner dynasty scandal deepens. Paternity lies, family betrayals. Their stock tanked. Franchise deals froze. Old partners started legal investigations. My father was seen leaving his flagship restaurant pale and hollow, chased by reporters. James vanished from social media completely. And through it all I kept Emma shielded, surrounded by art and summer camps and gentle people who loved her. Then came the day of the final confrontation. My parents invited me to a last desperate family meeting. They were hoping to negotiate, to plead, maybe to threaten. I walked into that dark oak-paneled study, my mother's eyes red-rimmed, my father's jaw clenched. My mother started with a trembling voice. "Emily, you've always been so sensitive. Can't we fix this? We're still your family." I met her gaze steady. "You lost the right to call yourselves my family, the day you laughed while my daughter was humiliated." My father slammed his hand on the table. "You've destroyed us. Is that what you wanted? Your own parents ruined." I leaned in, voice calm, almost gentle. "I wanted you to feel small, powerless, just like you made me feel all my life, just like you made my little girl feel. Now you do. And this is the last time you'll ever see us." I stood. They didn't try to stop me. When I walked out of that mansion, the sun was bright, the air smelled of salt from the harbor. For the first time, the weight was gone. I was free. I went home to Emma and Daniel. We curled up on the couch that night, watching some silly cartoon, all of us laughing. It was the purest moment of joy I'd felt in years. And deep down, I knew I hadn't just avenged Emma. I'd rewritten our entire future. It's been 6 months since that day in my parents' study. 6 months since I closed the door on them. On decades of cruelty, manipulation, and false family loyalty. It's strange how quiet life becomes when the noise of toxic people finally fades. How peaceful. Emma started a new middle school this fall. A small arts-focused academy in Cambridge. She's thriving. She comes home with clay under her fingernails, paints on her jeans, stories about best friends and how the cafeteria pizza is weird but kinda awesome. And Daniel? He's finally found his voice. He quit his dull accounting job and took a leap to open a little bakery downtown. Said watching me stand up to my family made him realize how small he'd been living. I see him now, hands covered in flour, grinning as customers line up out the door. We're all becoming who we were meant to be. As for me, some nights I still wake up in a cold sweat, remembering James' laugh, my father's smirk, my mother's indifferent eyes. But it fades quicker now, because I look around. At our cozy rented townhouse, the garden Emma and I planted, the shelves filled with Daniel's sourdough experiments. And I know we're building something real. Not built on fear. Not built on secrets. Just love. I thought that was where the story would end. But life, or maybe karma, had one final thread to pull. It happened on a rainy afternoon. I was at Daniel's bakery, helping tally receipts, when an unfamiliar woman walked in. Mid-50s, smart navy blazer, soft kind eyes. She waited until customers cleared out, then approached me. "Emily Turner?" "Yes? I'm Claire Hughes. I'm a private forensic accountant, hired by several investors tied to your father's business." My stomach tightened. "Is there a problem?" She gave a small knowing smile. "Not for you. Quite the opposite. In reviewing the Turner holdings for fraud, we discovered extensive off-books accounts. Millions. Your father had been funneling money for decades, hiding it under shell corporations. Your name was on several trust documents, likely as a tax shelter. Meaning?" She opened a folder and slid it toward me. "These assets are legally yours. Completely. Given the fraud, no one can contest it. You and your daughter are now very, very secure." I sat there stunned. For so long, I thought destroying them meant walking away with nothing but my dignity. Now, ironically, it meant my daughter would never want for anything. I covered my face and laughed, a raw, tearful laugh. Daniel rushed over, his arm around me. Claire gently packed up her papers. "And Emily, for what it's worth, I've read thousands of these cases. It's rare to see someone bring down such a powerful family so decisively. You did right by your daughter." That night I told Emma everything. Well, the parts her tender heart could understand. That sometimes people who are supposed to love us don't. That sometimes you have to fight very hard to protect the people you care about. She curled up against me on the couch. "Mommy, does that mean they can't ever hurt us again?" I kissed her hair. "They'll never hurt us again, baby. We're free. And safe. And together. That's all that matters." She smiled, sleepy. "Good. I like our little house. And Daddy's bread. And you. So this is our new life. Quiet. Honest. Filled with paint and flour and books. Sometimes I catch myself humming in the kitchen, sun pouring through the windows, and it strikes me how far we've come. From a frightened woman who tiptoed around her family's moods, to a mother who burned an empire to the ground to protect her child. If you're listening to my story, maybe you've been in a place like I was. Afraid. Small. Convinced you have to keep enduring it because family is family. I hope you remember this instead. Family is who protects your heart, who lifts you up, who dances in the kitchen with you on a Tuesday just because. The rest? Let it burn. Because you and your children deserve so much more.